All right, for day two, we're going to be looking at the unit circle. And the unit circle is just basically, this circle where each one of these boxes is going to be considered one unit. We're going to call it the unit circle for now. And what we're going to look at is this. Let's say we're going to give this measure, this angle measure here. Let's just say we're going to give this 45 degrees. Okay, so I'm going to call that x, and let's say x equals 45 degrees. Okay, how high up are we at 45 degrees? We're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're 6 units up. And notice we're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 units is our radius. So we're 6 out of 7 boxes up. So the highest we could be is 7 boxes up, right, along this circle here. And we are 6 boxes up at that point at 45 degrees. So we'll just keep that in mind for a second. If you travel in the opposite direction, so if we did 45 degrees this way, you should notice it's the same thing. We're about 6 units up. Or this time, we're 6 units down, so we'll call that negative 6 over 7. If you come over here to the calculator, and you do 6 divided by 7, you should get a decimal 0.85. Okay? Now, let's say here this is, 45 degrees. It's probably maybe even a little bigger than 45 degrees. So maybe make this fair. We'll just call this 60 degrees. Okay, because it's probably 45 degrees might be down here. We'll call this 60 degrees. What I want you to do on your calculator is hit the sign button and then do 60. And before you hit enter, what we're going to do is we're going to go to our mode here and make sure that this one down here is selected to degree. So go down, and again, we got this by selecting the mode button right here. Go down and let's click this on degree. So we're doing, degrees. So we'll put out of there, sign is 60, hit enter. Notice how close these are to each other. So what that basically tells us is that this right here is 60 degrees. We're about 6/7 of the way up, and that gives us this decimal, exactly. So what really actually calculated here, why I showed you this, is the height that you are compared to this whole height here, this is what we call sine. So what you're actually looking for here, and we're doing an approximation here with sine, but notice how close we are, how close these decimals are to each other. And this is called the sine of a function. So the sine of x on the unit circle, on a periodic function, because it's just like a Ferris wheel going round and round, the sine of x is what fraction of the height are we up throughout the Ferris wheel at any given point from the center. So this is really the distance from the midline to our height or to our bottom. And again, we should notice if you go here and type in sine of negative 60, because we're in a negative direction, it should give us the negative value of this, which means we're down that way. So sine just tells you how far up or down you are from the midline at any given point on this periodic function. So if we take a look here, let's say, for example, let's just do a small other example. Let's say here these boxes, this distance aren't 1. So let's say in this problem, we can take this. So using the picture provided, the distance to point P is 1. So let's say this distance here is 1. This radius is 1, which means we'll call this up here 1 again. All right, what is the height of point P? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so we're about 4/5 of the way up. Right? So now, if this was 50 feet, right? So if this was 50 feet up, we would be, so here we are 4/5 of the way up. If this is 50 feet, we're actually 40 out of 50 boxes up. Because if this is 50, right, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, we are 10, 20, 30, 40 up out of the 50 box. If it's A is 50 degrees, what other value of A would have the same height? So let's get into this. Let's talk about this. So let's assume this is 50 degrees. So let's do sine of 50. We get about 0.76, which is really close to 4 divided by 5, which is 0.8. So what you should notice is we're about, 4/5 of the way up. So this up here is the top. This is the maximum we're going to reach right up here, and we're 4/5 of the way up. You should also notice that right around here should also be the same thing. But what this is this is going to be, and we're going to use the 50 degrees, this is going to be 50 degrees backwards from here. Well, how many degrees is that from here? So this is 90 degrees. This is 50, which means this is 40. So 90 plus 40 is going to be 130. So we're going to go from here over. This is 130 degrees. So if I did this correct, sine of 130 should be the same as sine of 50. Hit enter, and what do you know? It is. All right, so hopefully that helps and helps you get going moving forward. If you have any questions, let me know.